Welcome back to the Glint Standard. Today we're going to be talking about boss behavior.
Okay, so this is going to be a great episode.
I'm a little concerned because we're calling it boss behavior, not leadership skills.
Oh, okay.
But no, I think it's a great way to talk about it because it's like almost everyone's afraid to talk about it that way.
Well, I saw it on some sort of feed. It was like, I think it was a sorority sister who was in a magazine for best HR person in Texas or whatever. And a lot of people in the feed were saying boss. So it's kind of like a normal lingo.
I think it is.
But the reason why you're going to love this is because it's about you. So
didn't we just do an episode about Terrell Owens, I love me some me or something? I mean, I feel like this was set up months ago.
No, maybe so. Maybe we're leading into it. So here's what I think is so valuable. I don't know if you remember, but was it a couple of years ago? No, not a couple of years ago. Maybe a year ago. Before I started working for Glint. And I was just one of your clients. One of your favorites.
Yep.
I was in a class and I had to do an audit,
a business audit.
And I chose out of everyone in the world.
Because we were your favorite?
Maybe. But I chose to do Glint.
Yep.
And it was a business audit and also somewhat like a case study. And you were just so gracious to let me sit down with you. I recorded you.
Yeah.
And I submitted that and it was awesome. And by the way, for the audience, I got 100. Ding! Okay.
What happens when you pick a good company?
I know. But the reason why I chose Glint, and probably one of the reasons why I stayed with Glint for so many years, 10 years or so?
It was a long run for sure.
Yeah, is because of the brand. It was just different. And I think a large part of that is you.
I appreciate that.
And I think while sometimes you try to deflect and say that you want Glint to be about the people, it is.
For sure.
It's going to always be about the people.
Right.
I mean, it will. But I think you should take some credit because I think you showed some courageous behavior.
I appreciate that.
In starting this agency and also being with it as it moves into the future. So anyway, so this episode is celebrating you.
Okay. All right then.
But it's also giving our viewers and listeners tips on how to be fearless, how to step out of the norm, and just how to hope and dream and make it a reality. So if that's okay with you.
No, I'm good with it. I love to talk to people all the time about if they're trying to do their own thing, and I'll encourage it because it can be very rewarding, but I'll also be very blunt and honest about how challenging it can be as well. I mean, it's you got to drive it sometimes for sure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get old for me.
Well, when did you celebrate your 20th?
20th, that was 3 years ago.
What?
Yeah, 3 years ago, during the pandemic.
That's right.
And it was something that we wanted to really do something big about, but during the pandemic, it didn't feel right because what the world was going through. So I think that says a little bit about us. One, it's you have to be aware of your environment, and just because you want to go big, it's not always the right thing to do. But we still did announcements. We did more. We tried to push more of an online awareness about we're very proud of what we're doing. Thanks to our clients for helping us get here. We made some shirts, did some banners in the office to remind everybody. But we wanted to be a much bigger campaign.
I love my shirt.
I love seeing them around.
I wore it when I got my COVID vaccine.
I know. You sent me the photo of that. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, and you're like,
yeah,
that's your shirt.
I know that company.
But what I love that you just said is not making it overwhelming or big, or really adapting it to the environment and the surroundings. And that's really anything. I think when people think about starting a business, they want to just do this.
And it just kind of happens.
Grand, right? Yeah, and this grand gesture. And maybe that's not sustaining.
it gets very expensive. I mean, I believe you should build into the business. You've got to take some risk and you've got to put some money behind it. I mean, and you got to be willing to lose it. Just got to be okay with that. But if you believe in yourself and what you're doing, you can get there. But you don't have to put so much money behind it that it becomes such a burden. I think that's why there's a lot of failures.
So much.
People don't think about the implications of taxes and things like that and what it really takes to make it happen. And then if you start out behind the wheel not paying attention to that stuff, it'll eat you up in a hurry. It's why a lot of businesses fail. You go in there because you have a passion for it. You love it. Oh, if they can do it, I can do it. But what you don't understand is you actually have to run a business. You can't just do the thing you love.
And you have to have a little bit of capital. You don't have a lot, but you need to make that commitment.
Depends on how quickly you want to grow, for sure. At least have it in reserve. You don't have to throw it up front, but you want to know you've got something to fall back on. It brings you a little bit of comfort, and it makes you take it serious that this is something that I have to commit to financially. And financial is what drives most people and most things.
Yeah.
So if you put that, I'll call it a burden, because honestly that's what it is. You put it in place, it keeps in the back of your mind about, okay, who am I going to let down? How am I going to start? When I started, it was my family, right? I got to make it work. But I had confidence in myself that I will make it work. But if I don't, fine with failing. I'm always fine with failing, as long as I'm learning through it and I work through it. And if you do that, a lot of times you don't fail. You keep going. But that fear of failure will stop a lot of people, or fear of success as well.
The other day, I love to watch The View. Shocking.
Yes, you do.
They had Huma Abedin on there, who was Hillary Clinton's right-hand man. And Hillary Clinton, of course, is very polarizing. But Huma has been through a lot of challenges. Her husband was caught cheating. And, she's been in the press a lot. But one of the things that she said that stuck with me is, and you've said this to me a lot, is you have to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You do. Do not be afraid of the uncomfortable. So Huma said it. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. And then one of the guests on the show also was Tamron Hall, that used to be on the Today Show, and she was fired, and she publicly says she was fired. They both said the same thing. You need to be a little bit uncomfortable.
Is that any different than advertising and marketing, though? It's really, usually the better campaigns will make you a little more comfortable. You keep doing the same thing all the time, even if you're getting good results. You never truly know what your potential is. But there's no guarantees in it either. Business is really no different than that. That's why the industry I chose aligns with the thinking behind starting a business as well, I think. But yeah, being uncomfortable is not a bad thing.
Well, I just wanted to give you your props.
I appreciate that.
Because a lot of people are saying that. Okay, so this entrepreneurial drive to make you create this agency 23 years ago, can you give me 3 things that drive and motivate you? I think you gave me one. Family.
Yeah. God, I can go so many different places.
I said only 3. And I already took one.
Yeah, family's a good one because you want better for your family. On a personal level as well, you don't start a business unless you want to make more money, right? Doesn't mean you have to be greedy and a gazillionaire of this, but you get to call the shots. Safety, I think, is which is going to sound weird probably, another reason why I wanted to start this. If you work for somebody else, I mean, there's no guarantees. You might walk in one day, especially in our industry, and you're let go. You don't see it coming. The writing's usually on the wall, but if our industry, big clients go away, people are laid off. I have more control over my own fate doing it this way, which seems counterproductive to how you think it would be. But I do. I can see how things are going. I can ebb and flow. I can adjust my life to make it work if I need to. When you start hiring people, that burden becomes a little bit bigger. It's not people are counting on you. So I think safety's a big one. I think family's a big one. And can I do it? Yeah. I think that's a big one too. I always want to know, I think I can do that. And it's that not having fear of failure. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Not having curiosity, not having a fear of failure, and then perhaps maybe support, family support, financial support, that sort of thing, that for sure might drive you. Okay, what type of person is the wrong person? Because
not owning a business is not good for everybody at all.
It is not.
And it is not a bad thing.
It is definitely not. You have
Not
to
a
be
bad
built
thing.
for this.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you don't know you're built for this until you try. I don't know if there's a bad person who can start a business. If you can get a business and make it successful, good for you. I think the idea of if you're going into it because you think it's where all the money is, you work your butt off for a little while, then it's easy, and you just get to sit back and not totally sit back, but not be in the day to day and worry about executing things, and it just gets really easy at some point. It doesn't. It is as hard today as it was on day one. The worries are different. The challenges are different. You get used to things when you start. I remember in the very beginning there was writing a $20,000 check to a vendor, taxes, something, and it was the biggest check I've ever written, 20 grand.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whew. And I thought, I knew it was coming. I planned for it. I had it. It was weird, but then it became normal. You've got bills that occur every month. You've got payroll that occurs every month. You've got all these different things. You have income coming in every month. And if you're so worried about each little dollar, it can drive you nuts, and that's all you focus on. But I think you have to
you get used to it and you rise to the challenge.
You do. And the jack of all trade thing is a little bit overused and overstated from the understanding of it. But you do have to have a good understanding of business. How finance works, how taxes work, how creative works, how your industry works, and all the different nuances that happen within that. You have to have a good understanding. You have to be an expert at any of it. Mm-hmm. I came with some talents in certain areas that I could bring to overcome those others, so I had to fill my gaps over here. A lot of people very successful in our industry are salespeople. I wasn't. I was naturally good at it, but I've never been comfortable at it. Mm-hmm. But you do what you have to do to get there. And that's the thing, you have to be willing to learn, to overcome, be uncomfortable, and push it forward in a way that still meets with your expectations. So people who that wouldn't align with, it's, if I put in my time, it'll come.
Yeah.
Time doesn't fix a whole lot. Effort doesn't fix a whole lot. You need those things. But that's not really what's fixing things. So if you think that's what it is, this is not for you, for sure.
I'm pulling being adaptable. You said ebbs and flows. Mm-hmm. The curiosity.
So that's a good one, though.
I think that's pretty accurate for someone to stay in the business for so long, just to be able to adjust. Okay, so on the Glint's website, if you read about the agency, it has different stages of growth.
Oh, it does, yes.
Infancy. And the reason why I know this is because I wrote about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Infancy, adolescence, or infancy, childhood, adolescence, and mature years. Which one was your favorite?
They all had moments which were, it's like raising a kid. And every era has some really great things and some challenging things. They're always different. So I think probably we'll call it I don't remember which one it was. It's not adolescence, not the teenage years. We're really getting to young adult type area, right?
That's fair.
Where you're starting to have a little fun.
Yeah.
It's still a little challenging, but you kind of hit a mark now that you're really comfortable at this point with its sustainability.
Yeah.
But you get to do some fun things
It's
before.
like you've experienced things and gotten through some things.
Yeah.
But then there's a road to go.
There is. You don't worry a lot from the day to day. It's you worry always a little bit, but the day to day, you're really caught up in the day to day of what's it's like. What can we do? Because now and you're comfortable. Anything really is possible. So then you try to do whatever you want, and this makes sense.
Right.
It's okay taking a little risk. Let's see where it goes. So I think it's that older stage that really.
Here goes my little fear thing. You've gotten through what you can get through, and you can get through it. And I love how you think, because you're thinking of the future, where we can go, how it looks. I'm saying, look at what you've overcome to give you a good solid base, and then you go and you move, because that's confidence.
It's a really good way to say that. Yeah. Foundation, I think. I think the agency has a really good foundation.
Yes.
I feel like I'm a part of why that's there. We've had a lot of really great people along the way get us to where we are. And now it's, okay, where do we take it now? What's possible for us? Not what can we do today, but what's possible, and should we be going that way? Learning your markets, the data, and you love all that. So it's great to have you here on that side too. But I am a firm believer that after 23 years, my job was to put the foundation in place. It's someone else's job to take it further.
That's it.
Most companies, that's how they work. They've been around for hundreds of years. You wouldn't even know. But you just now know about them because it's been taken to that next level. And sometimes it takes a different type of thinking to get there, and you need someone to lay the foundation for somebody else for them to jump, because they're not good at that part.
Right.
But finding the right people to do that is tough.
It's kind of like being mid-career, definitely. And there's some theories lately just advising you of the shifts and the phases in your life. In your 20s and 30s is, setting the foundation, meeting people, making relationships, and then you move into just conquering, I think Glint's middle age.
I do too.
Mid-career.
I think there's a lot to come.
I think there's a lot of good things to come.
For sure. And I think the most exciting thing for me is, when Glint was first brought about, and for probably most of the first 15, 20 years, it's kind of, it's Craig's agency type of thing. And it started to make that shift, which was really nice. I think when we incorporated, that helped it become its own thing, and I just work here now. And now we're going into things, or taking things where people are starting to come here because it is Glint, and Glint stands for something. And yeah, I'm here, and you're here, and other people are here, but overall, it has its own expectation behind it, which I think is pretty amazing.
Well, let me tell you something that I think is really hard for any company to do, any brand, is to establish its culture. It can be one of the most challenging things. And that's one of the things that I think you've done a really good job of doing. Struggled a little bit at the beginning, finding that place.
Yep.
But I think, which is normal, because you have to research and know. But then I think once you found it, it's really easy to identify this agency. It's really easy to identify the people that work in it. And I think that's a really good thing. Any tips for listeners on how do you do that, or maybe what is the biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is trust, and it's going to be forever. I think that's there. You have to trust that the people you have are here for the right reason, and I believe they are, and they're going to continue to drive that piece of it, right? And not micromanage, but really see the potential of what it has.
See, and I like the word empower. I like trust.
Empower's good.
But
empower's probably a better word. You're empowered to do whatever you think needs to happen. Make it for the right reason. We'll never have an issue. We make a mistake. Let's talk about why we don't do it like this. Learn from it. Let's move forward and not keep doing the same thing. But go do your thing. If you tell me you're going to do your thing, go do your thing. You actually have that. Which is a really scary thing, because I am that person that says, fine, go make it happen.
That's uncomfortable, though.
Versus, well, I still want you to take me through. I don't work that way. You told me you got it, get it. I'll help. But I'm not going to take responsibility for it. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
It's a different way of thinking for sure, and it aligns well for a lot of people. A lot of people think they want that, but it can be really challenging as well, and you got to know that's the work. But knowing you've got people who can work through that tells me that entrepreneurial spirit's in there. A little bit of risk, a little bit of uncomfortableness is the only thing that's left.
Yeah.
If you can work through that, you're there. And we've set up a model in a way that you don't have to start from nothing. You can move into this and create your own thing, which I think is pretty amazing.
There's room. There's room for growth and differentiation.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so go back. Time travel. You're 26 years old. You're working at this. Was it an agency or a company as a creative director? And the day you decide to leave, what did it?
So I'd actually become a VP at that point, very young. But I'd proven myself. I'd been driving for that, and we were able to to make that happen. Ruffled a few feathers. Because a lot of the people that I was responsible for were older than me. And that's where, when I say age doesn't matter, it's that type of thing. This is what it means. That opportunity has always been there. Just go get it, and do what it takes to make that happen, whatever that is.
What were you feeling that day, though?
So I'd actually talked to my boss that day, and he was ready to retire. And I'm ready to take this agency over. I still want you to be involved. I can learn a lot from you, but I want to own part of this agency and move it forward. And it was a private agency, and it was not going to happen. But okay. I want to know that I tried. That's all it was.
Okay.
That's all it was. I'm fine with failing. The timing probably could have been better, but then timing's always a reason to not do things.
Because you had a baby
right?
on the way.
I did. My firstborn was born.
That's
just born. And 3 months later, I started the agency. Without my wife, this never happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got great support at home. I'm very fortunate to have it. You kind of need that as well. If you don't have that, it's really hard to manage as well and push a business forward. So everyone has to be on board. But it's one of those things like, you know what, I'm just going to try. Because if it's not this, it's going to be something else. Next thing you know, you're 45 years old and you're comfortable, you're living your life. And I really want that now. I want that lifestyle, but I don't want to give up anything for it. Now you've got kids you're taking care of, in a lot of instances. So there's always a reason not to in anything in your life. So you just gonna say, that's not gonna stop me.
Yeah.
Let me go do it. Let me see if I can not do it. And then it just starts to work.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So that was early days. That's what drove me to do it. And I've worked for some people in my past that I'm like, man, if they can do it, sure, I don't know what I'm doing, but I can figure it out.
You can figure it out.
And if I can't, maybe they do have something I don't have.
Yeah.
But fortunately
but you
they didn't.
want regrets.
No, not at all.
You wanted to try the freedom. You wanted to just go and do it.
Yeah, I had a meeting with my old boss, and I respected him tremendously. He'd done an amazing job building this agency. He's very good, very good. We went to a meeting, and it was a client that I pulled in, and we left the meeting. He went with me, and it was the third meeting or something. And he came because I'm like, they should be done agency owner, right? And they left, and I don't remember what came up, and they go, so who's that guy you brought with you? Oh, he's the one who owns the agency. And I go, oh, we thought you owned the agency. Like, oh, maybe it's time.
They said, who's the guy you brought with you?
Yeah.
And we thought it was you.
And I'd already set up who it was and why he was coming.
Yeah.
But it was lost on them.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks a little bit for me as well, because when I worked there, and every agency I worked at, I worked like I owned it. So
work like
it was a natural transition that made sense. And then people recognized it, and you're like, maybe it is time. If I can get this caliber of client to think I'm owning it at this age, I can probably figure it out.
Work like you own it. Okay. I mean, we could go on forever.
Yeah, I know. We're running a little long.
What I'm going to do, though, because I wanted to ask you about lessons learned and very specific things. So if somebody was going to look at a checklist and say, don't do this, but I want you to tell me later, and we'll put it in our companion blog.
Oh, it's a good idea. Yeah, we can definitely do that.
To go along with this podcast.
I would love for this to be a spark for somebody to try, right? It's not like you can check every box and I checked all the boxes, I'm ready to go. There's more than that, but I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah,
we
and
can
overcome fear. Overcome fear.
Yeah, it never really goes away though. That's the thing.
But okay.
Maybe it's uncomfortableness. Uncomfortableness never goes away.
Yeah.
But where your uncomfortableness is and what is focused on your concerns, those do change. I love that kind of stuff, though. I do. I love to be able to figure things out. What do we do? Let's come up with something.
One of the reasons why you built like every part of this
I love it. I do. I love this. It feels very comfortable to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's a feat. Okay. All right. I think we've come to the end. We'll put all of the lessons learned. We'll even put a little bit about vision and why vision is so important to you.
Okay.
And because I think that's one thing that drives you. Actually.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
So, everybody, we're everywhere. We're on our website, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we're on, what else?
Pretty much everywhere. The podcast is on pretty much any podcast channel that you're interested in watching. You'll find us there.
Yeah.
If you have questions for me, like direct questions, just ask
Put
me.
it in the comment
Drop
box.
a comment. Shoot us a note. agency@theglintstandard.com. We'll get those. We'll respond to those. Happy to help. Would love to see people be able to push this forward.
Add us to your playlist. Okay, thanks. That was the Glint Standard.
Please give us a thumbs up below if you like this episode, and feel free to leave us any questions or comments you may have. To check out our past episodes, do so here. Subscribe to our channel below.